Hey, what's up, everybody? Tim Albrecht here, and welcome to this week's episode of the Ask a YFP CFP segment of the Your Financial Pharmacist Podcast, where we feature questions from you, the YFP community, to be answered by one of our very own fee-only certified financial planners. Please note this podcast is intended for educational purposes and should not be considered financial or investment advice, as we do not know all the variables to one's personal situation when answering a question. Before we jump into today's question, a shout out to our extraordinary YFP financial planning team that makes this segment possible. Your Financial Pharmacist offers fee-only comprehensive financial planning services that are customized to the pharmacy professional. So whether you want to pay off your student loans, make the right investment decisions, or simply build a solid financial plan, we'll help get your income working for you rather than the other way around. You can learn more by visiting yfpplanning.com. Again, that's yfpplanning.com. Okay, this week's question comes from Brittany in Bardstown, Kentucky.
Hi, this is Brittany from Bardstown, Kentucky, and I was wondering about my options for a few 401ks from previous employers. I've been hesitant to roll them over to an IRA for various reasons. I understand the pros of consolidation and expanded investment options since I'm currently in all target date funds. But I've also read the cons of IRA rollovers, such as exposure to lawsuits and the loss of the Rule of 55. I'd like to think early retirement is attainable at this point. So it seems to me my only option is to roll my old 401ks into my current employer's 403b. Is that correct, or do you have any other thoughts or considerations? Thanks.
Thank you, Brittany, for submitting your question to be featured on this week's Ask a YFP CFP segment of the Your Financial Pharmacist Podcast. Tim Baker, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I guess it's, say it with me. It's really going to depend. I think that where you have to be careful, Brittany, is that if you talk to most financial planners, they're going to say, regardless, roll it over. You do lose some protection when you go from the 401k into the IRA world. So let me just break that down, first. So retirement accounts that qualify under the Employee Retirement Income Security Act, ERISA, are generally protected from creditors, bankruptcies, and any other civil proceedings that are out there. Your retirement assets are not at risk if your employer declares bankruptcy. So if you work for a company and they go bankrupt, you're still protected. However, if you are filing for bankruptcy, that's where potentially an IRA creditors could go after. So the thing that we really need to understand is what are ERISA plans and what aren't ERISA plans. So I know your question was, do I take some of these old 401ks and roll them over into my 403b? And the answer to that is it depends, because all 401ks are going to be covered by ERISA. So your accounts, your money is protected from creditors if something were to happen, if it's bankruptcy. Mm-hmm. But you also have non-ERISA 403bs. So some are going to be covered and some aren't. IRAs are not covered, and then even things like 401as are not going to be covered. So if you are concerned about creditor protection, then the 401k is probably going to be where it's the most ironclad. For me and a lot of clients, that's not necessarily something. It's something that to look at, but the chance of lawsuits is out there. However, if you're in a high risk occupation, which pharmacists can be, there are some instances where you could be sued for malpractice. So this is where having a professional liability insurance is important. Policy is important, and then potentially also an umbrella policy that can kind of sit on top of your kind of your PNC policy. So, but you could also be sued for things that for like a car accident, which again, that's where umbrella policies come into place. Actions of family members. So that's going to be a big thing if you're protected the right way. And that's, again, when we look at insurance and kind of the risks that are there, it's typically okay to leave from the 401k world into the IRA world. It's going to be a toss up whether your current 403b is, basically protected or not. The other thing that you mentioned was the Rule of 55. So for those of you that don't know the Rule of 55, this allows an employee who is laid off or fired or quits their job between the age of 55 and 59 and a half years old to pull their money out of the 401k or a 403b without that 10% penalty that we've always talked about. So once you reach 55, you have that option to do that. There is one catch though, is that it only applies to your current 401k. So any plans that you're an inactive participant, so these old 401ks that we're talking about, it doesn't apply. Now you can roll those into the new 403b that you have, and then you can access. But there are other ways to potentially do that. And one of them is they're called 72T distributions. So these are basically allowed in really any retirement account, IRA, 401k, 403b, where you can make penalty-free withdrawals in these accounts. And what you essentially have to do is, as the owner of the account, you have to take at least 5 substantially equal periodic payments, SEPPs, and the amount of the payments depend on your life expectancy as calculated by the IRS. So these payments basically occur over 5 years or until you reach 59 and a half, whichever period is longer. So there are ways to get the money out of these plans without seeing that penalty. I think the bigger thing is to understand, where your potential money is at risk. Inside of a 401k, it's typically okay. In a 403b, maybe. In an IRA, there's more risk there unless you have the proper protections. And that's, again, why we talk about, things like professional liability, umbrella insurance, and the like. So again, it's kind of a multifaceted answer. And that's why, you talking to a financial planner would probably make a lot of sense. I think one of the main drivers in the investment portfolio, again, is expense. And unfortunately, a lot of 401ks and 403bs don't necessarily cut it. So typically in the IRA world, you do have a lot more flexibility and low cost options. You mentioned target date funds. Again, I'm not a big target date fund person. I think if you are doing it yourself and you want to leave it, that's great, but you're paying a premium for that. So typically plans do offer, lower expense, and that's typically the main driver in your future performance. So these are all things to weigh as you're kind of, approaching, you mentioned early retirement, which I'd be interested to see like what that actual age is. And then beyond, the big thing with retirement planning is just making sure that my money is not going to run out. So hopefully, Brittany, that answered your question, and good luck with, whatever road you decide to take.
Great stuff, Tim. Drop in knowledge bombs this week.
Oh, man. Yeah. Lots of stuff.
I was taking note. ERISA plans, 72T distributions, Rule 55, the SEPP. Great stuff. So
Brittany made me work. I had to dust off some of the, the text. So yeah, that's good stuff.
Pull out the CFP training manual, right? So
yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, Brittany, thank you so much for taking time to submit a question to be featured on this week's Ask a YFP CFP episode of the Your Financial Pharmacist podcast. And as a small thank you, we're going to be sending you a super comfy YFP t-shirt. I'm actually wearing mine right now. And to the YFP community, if you'd like to have your question featured on a future upcoming episode, please go to yourfinancialpharmacist.com/ask YFP or shoot us an email at info@yourfinancialpharmacist.com. Have a great rest of your day.